Greetings and salutations. So we're back this time to look at an entire series. In this case, the Martian Chronicles. This is based off a book from Ray Bradbury. It is a 1980s television 3-episode miniseries based on it. And mostly the series dealing with the exploration of Mars and the inhabitants there. The series starred Rock Hudson, Darren McGavin, Bernadette Peters, Rudy McDowell, Fritz Weaver, Barry Morse, and Maria Schelt. It aired on NBC in June 1980, in 3 episodes with a total running of just over 4 hours. The series was directed by Michael Joseph Anderson, who directed films like Logan's Run.
Do you want me to take my clothes off?
Not for your face.
You shouldn't have brought him here.
I didn't bring him. What's the difference? He's blinking. He wants to run.
And Around the World in 80 Days. So, let's get started looking at the first one. The first episode was called The Expedition. The first one came out on January 27th, 1980. The exploration of Mars begins with 2 failed expeditions. Colonel Waller then leads a crew to discover the secret of Mars, only to find all the Martians dead from chickenpox. For the first episode, I was fairly intrigued by all that happened, in that the atmosphere is fairly good, getting us into and at the beginning, with the man, of Mars looking and.
I had a dream about a man. He is not from our world. I have never encountered with a thought like it before. He came down from the sky and spoke to me. He said, "We are from the 3rd planet. My name is Nathaniel York."
The Martians that live there, in a way, like, them trying to, say, hey, well, this is our life, and one of them talking about how the expedition is currently going on, in a way. Once the, after that, once the, second expedition, once the astronauts first get there, I did like how they were tricked into a false narrative of their family and friends being there. And at first, it feels real to them until it's too late.
You couldn't disguise the air.
No, we couldn't disguise the air.
I can't move.
The chocolate pudding was drugged. Except, of course, you only thought that it was chocolate pudding.
And that they succumbed to being, I think it was being poisoned. I did like how we got a bit of a relationship, among these characters, until, hey, there's my mom, there's my uncle, and all that. And before the expedition goes, and I especially like how in the next group, which is third expedition, of hey, this is Colonel Wilder, how there's moments between him and the rest of his crew.
It'll be a family scene. Oh, you don't think I'd be any good for more than a few weeks without my Alma now, do you, huh?
No.
No.
Do you really feel that way, Jeff?
Yes, I do. Do you think it's right that we should move in on any planet, whether or not it's populated?
Well, we wouldn't be moving in as conquerors.
Wouldn't we?
Before, them talking about how, maybe the expedition went well for them, in all the way. But once the astronauts get there, once the third crew, gets there, they find out that, hey, and then Spender, who seems to be let's not piss any of the Martians off, because, when the third expedition gets there, it seems very deserted. No one's there. Everything, it seems very, quiet, uninhabited in a way. And he comes back possessed.
Spender? Well, where the hell have you been for the last week, huh?
I'm the last Martian.
You're the... yeah.
Been there, but the one thing I think is surprising is that like near the end of the episode is that we find out that he was being possessed because, or maybe there was clones because at the same time I believe it was the Martians that had taken over his, mimicked him to look like him, because he had done that previously with the second expedition. Overall, I thought the first episode was really good with what it was trying to do. It, in a way, helped you get interested in the characters. It helped you set the foundation for the world that it was building.
Take a look. Who could be dressed like that? Must be some kind of a trick, Colonel.
I don't think so.
So, overall, I thought it was really intriguing. I had a good time watching it. So, the second episode that came out was called The Settlers. It came out on June 28th, 1980. With native Martians wiped out by disease, thousands of humans now colonize the Red Planet and attempt to create a second Earth. I thought the opening with the couple in which they either see a man or a Martian in the rain was really good when it comes to how intense, the intensity it's trying to build.
Who is it?
A young man.
Because, it feeds to expectations of, say, who is that? And it, in a way, says, the couple goes, say, I'm going to leave the door open for you. And especially when the couple, as the episode goes on, at the beginning of it, when the couple is, are in bed, and then we hear someone come into the room, and it's almost like they knew who the person is, say the husband does. And overall, I thought that opening sequence was pretty good. So the first group that ends up coming to the planet are missionaries, say preachers and priests and all that. And we first, thank you. And I like how at the when the priests and the fathers and all that, and they get there, I like how the thought of say the blue orbs and all that, and it's say, oh, it could be a sign of a form of God on there, and so basically they think oh, it's protecting us in a way, and I think it was a visually cool look, and
No, wait! Come back! Come back! Come back!
Now look what you've done.
I thought it was an interesting idea that the village leaders are the first ones, almost say a sort of baptism. David's who was a member of the first, I think he was the first expedition, or maybe a second. His parents are kind of stuck in that they know their son isn't really David, since he's nervous to go into town when he comes back, and worried that someone's going to recognize him and reveal the truth. I do love how the Martian shows up appearing as Jesus at the church, how tense it is, and the acting in the scene is pretty great.
Avert your gaze. The more you look, the more I become this. I am not what I seem. I am not that vision. I didn't mean to come here. I was in the town square. One thing.
The actors included in it. The moment when the Martian takes multiple forms, when everyone is after him because of like a certain need, whether it was Mrs. Lusting, she is like really wanting her son, or then maybe there's a police officer who is needing to chase after a criminal, or someone else is like seeing the Martian as their daughter or their husband or something like that. And the transparent Agent 40 sequence still holds up pretty well. I think the way they are able to go back and forth instantly to the alien, it does well. I do like how the Martians are seen as the outsiders, since the human settlers are the outsiders to them, since they are, able to, say, hey. I do like how the designs for the buildings on Mars have a similar look to, like, restaurants or buildings from the 1950s. But, like, given in a modern context, they sort of remind me of ones from the 1990s, how everything had a bit of a chrome look to it.
So quiet.
I did get a bit of a smile when the owner of the diner, Sam Parkhill, and his wife are running on the sand boats from the Martians. Like, it's almost like a boat, because they're using a sail. And they end up having their own land, but at what cost, since the Earth, in a way, gets, like, destroyed from a nuclear fallout. So yeah, I thought this episode was fairly good. I thought all the actors in it were fairly good. The acting, the use of makeup, and in a way, all seemed to get a fairly well, in a way, fleshed out story. The third episode came out on called The Martians, came out on June 29th, 1980. With Earth destroyed in a nuclear war, Colonel Wilder finds himself alone with his family on Mars to rebuild what he has lost. Wilder chooses to make Mars his new home. The opening to this episode is honestly pretty good, with the Colonel getting back home, but sadly, it was too late in that, most of, his family have, in a way, gone before he was able to get there. And there are other folks on Mars, that, in this case, the halfway family, that whenever there is a UFO or kind of a ship, they're always trying to get their attention. And I do think the sequence when the family is introduced is pretty goofy and fun, in that, say, come on, we need to get this, we need to get that, and all that. It does show, what could be considered an everyday life. Would be, stuck on a desert planet. It's almost like stuck on an island, you're trying to, say, get someone's attention to, say, help, in a way, almost. And then we switch over to the character of Benjamin Driscoll, who had been part of the first expedition, and he goes around trying to find others until he hears a phone ringing. I did like this episode in that it has a different feel to it, and it has a Fincher kind of vibes with it, especially with his character, with him using his sitting copter. I believe it was powered by bicycle. I mean, these flying shots are pretty cool. But Ben finally meets a lady, and these costumes that they have him in, for, like, you know, are rather exciting. And tell me, you wouldn't want that suit.
Sweet. Of course. Sweet.
But his date doesn't go well, with, you know, basically, Leslie said, oh, he's gonna have to constantly be, a bus guy, a server, a cook, and help, you know, fix the lady's hot tub. The scene in which he, like, you know, the hay wave, the scene in which Peter signals Rocket to come down with lasers was neat. The moments with Peter is nice and it feels rather comforting. It's like your friend coming back to see a old, you know, like you're coming back to see an old friend. But I do find the scene in which his wife talks about his life on Mars to keep himself happy.
We could have lived in a regular house in the town, but he preferred it here, where he could be primitive when he liked. He told me all about his lab and the things he did there. He wired the entire dead town below with speakers. And when he pressed a button, the town lit up and made noises as if 10,000 people lived there.
He would have like a cigar or something like while looking outside. And it's sad, but rather comforting. Like, you know, it was, in a way, it said like how he was happy with his, you know, like daughter and wife and all that. And I do find when Colonel Rodder meets the Martian, and everyone's get the chance to meet, but in a way, they are both just ghosts to each other. In that, you know, they try to, like, say, get the classic first touch, first, you know, contact with each other. Because for the entire story, the Colonel had been wanting to have that first contact, but he had not had the chance. But I believe the alien is from the future, and in a way, the Colonel is in the past. And so, anyway, they are pretty good. I do like how, in a way, it's in a way, basically the humans are the ones that become the Martians, in that they, in a way, have Mars become their true home at the end of it. And I do like how, as the, you know, final episode ends with, like, you know, a pullback of the family just, I believe it was at a campfire, and they're all just, like, you know, like, looking back at the reflections in the water.
There. Those are the Martians.
And all that, I thought, yeah, this is honestly pretty good. I can see honestly why this was fairly intriguing to folks when this came out in the 1980s. The acting was good from it, the cinematography was great, the costuming, the use of like the sets, I mean, or maybe it was the location, because the location for it really helps sell that, like, hey, this is otherworldly. This could be another planet.
And I would like to see that carnival of yours.
And I would like to see the things you see. Good night, my friend.
Goodbye.
And all that. I actually really enjoyed what I saw from all this. It was fairly good. Yeah, this gave me a really good smile. I really enjoyed it. But have you ever seen the Ray Bradbury miniseries, The Martian Chronicles? Put your thoughts and comments down below. Let me know. And as always, thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. See you later.